What's up, watch enthusiasts? Skylar Santana here. Let's talk watches. So today I want to do a review of my Orient Bambino version 2. I added this to my collection in May 16, 2023, and I picked this watch up on Amazon for $170 USD because I wanted a vintage-inspired design without having to worry about the condition of the watch, whether it had original parts, or wondering if the watch was serviced properly and regularly. When you're buying vintage, you're really buying the seller, and you want to make sure that that seller is reputable and you actually are paying for what you're getting out of the watch. So that's a big thing, and I didn't really want to get too involved being newer to watch collecting and making sure that if I buy this watch and it does look vintage, I know that all the parts are new, and it gives me some time to gain that knowledge and gain that confidence to later on put an actual vintage watch in my collection. This watch punches way above its weight class, and I wanted to see how often I was going to wear a dress watch in my personal life, and it's still considered to be a great gateway watch with its affordability. Orient is owned by Seiko Epson Corp. Although Orient does operate independently, it has an in-house movement caliber of F6724, which is impressive due to the mass production and volume of watches yearly from Orient. It's an automatic movement with 22 joules, operating at 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 Hertz. It does have hacking and hand winding features, with a power reserve of approximately 40 hours. Case material is going to be stainless steel, coming at a diameter of 40.5 millimeters, with an impressive thickness of 11.8 millimeters. Lug to lug length, we're looking at 46.8 millimeters with a lug width of 21 millimeters. It has a water resistance of 30 meters or 100 feet with a push-pull crown function. You also can find a smaller version of the Orient Bambino in a 38.4 millimeter size in version 7 from $270 to $330 USD directly from the website in time of filming this review. With an elegant domed mineral crystal and a simple design date wheel aperture at the 3 o'clock position, it actually comes in a decent 21 millimeter calfskin leather strap comparable to the price, but I chose to swap the strap out for an ostrich style light tan, almost like an orange color, to highlight the rose gold indices and the rose gold hands in the watch. I also added a rose gold clasp to give it an elegant look while increasing the longevity of the leather by not having to bend it at a 90-degree angle every time I took the watch off and on. It's still available on Amazon in 5 different versions for $175 USD, or on Orient's website directly for $210 USD in time of filming this in 2024. So guys, for what it's worth, I feel like the watch is performing to my standards. I'm not a really big plus or minus 1 second guy. I'm happy with the watch being at 15 to 16 seconds plus or minus a day, as long as it's not losing 3 or 4 minutes a day, something too crazy. And I've really been trying to downsize in 2024 and paying close attention to what watches I'm going to be wearing, what watches I'm going to move on from. And I have to say that the Orient Bambino is probably going to be in my collection for a very long time. The only way I see me moving out of the watch is if I do eventually pony up and go to a dealer and really start talking and getting into vintage watches. But especially when it comes to the category of vintage watches, I feel like you really do need to do your due diligence and make sure that you know the background of what you're buying and specifics. Because in a vintage watch, you have that time duration of that watch being in existence, and you want to make sure that it's still performing, or it's been serviced, or it's really what you want to get out of the watch when you're inquiring it. So the only way that I would see me moving on from this watch is if I did actually purchase a vintage watch and I'm just wearing that watch more than this one and it's sitting in my watch box. But at its affordability, it's not going to have any value for trading in or trading up. At that point, I'll probably just give the watch away. But it has a lot of sentimental value, being the first piece in my collection that was really like a dress watch in its style. I had one prior to it, which was the Movado Bold. It's a little bit different in design language, the Bold being more of a minimalist type of feel, and then this one being a white dial on top of it. I think that ultimately this watch is here to stay for my collection for the long term, and if I do move out of the watch, I'll probably just give it away to somebody who can appreciate it. I do see the watch holding up over time and not causing any issues, and if I do have an issue where the movement needs to be serviced, I probably would just try and do a little homework and see if I could get that caliber and just buy the movement alone. and swap out the movement myself. You know, that's not going to work for everybody because I do have a modding background where I feel comfortable enough to open up a watch, especially when it's on this kind of affordability. You know, I don't really have to worry about suffering a really big, loss and doing any kind of scratching to the dial or bending the hands or anything of that nature. And I'm pretty confident and competent in being able to swap out a movement. So, maybe it's something where I go on eBay and I find another version 2 that was used but in like new condition, or if I could just purchase that movement separately, I'll just mod it out. I'll swap out the movement altogether. It's just a matter of removing the hands. Well, technically removing the movement out of the case, removing the hands, removing the dial. Now at that point your movement's going to be separate. You would swap that movement out, put the dial in, put the hands on, and then recase the watch. So it's really not a lot of work for somebody like me, but I know that's not going to work for everybody. And at the end of the day, the watch is definitely not going to be worth you servicing down the road, in my opinion. You're probably looking at a service call that's going to cost hundreds of dollars when the watch, in fact, only cost you a few hundred. So it may be something that you want to look into, customizing watches to give you that kind of skill set in case in the future, if you are building a more affordable collection, you're able to swap that movement out yourself, saving you that service call. Just keep in mind that I don't wear the watch as an everyday or an often type of thing. If you are a person that's wearing the watch more often, then you're going to increase that time where you're going to have that watch serviced. I do have 30 plus watches and I keep this watch in the watch case when I'm not using it, so it isn't getting beat up every single day. It's not getting worn so often. So keep that in mind. You have to factor that in when you own this watch and you're expecting its lifetime duration of needing that service call. That's going to definitely play a factor. So that's all that I really wanted to go over with this watch today. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I am hoping in the future to do more in-depth reviews. Hopefully I can catch the eye of some watch companies and start doing even more reviews for you guys for new releases and things of that nature. So like the video, subscribe. It does help out with the algorithm. Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.